Hello again, everybody, and welcome back. This is Bandor Tyrell, and I'm doing another Bandor Builds video. Today we're going to be talking about how to build a pillow and UV map it and get it ready to be used in Second Life. This is all going to be done in Blender. So this is a Blender tutorial for how to build a pillow and how to do the UV mapping on it so simply and easily. We're going to play around with it, and there's a bunch of different ways to do it. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this is Blender 4.1, and we have the default cube here. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can go about to make a pillow. We're going to try doing it one way and see how it turns out for us. And then if you guys like that, then you'll be able to reproduce it and do it yourself in no time, right? So that's the idea. So basically, we're going to start out with a very simple basic cube. And what I want to do is I want to take that cube and I want to split it down the middle, and then I'm going to flatten it and make it into the shape of my pillow. So first we're going to pop over to, we're currently in object mode. We're going to jump over to edit mode. We're going to click on the tab key to do that. That puts us in edit mode. And then we're going to pick the edge selection mode, which you can get to by hitting the 2 on the keyboard or by clicking this icon up here. And then while looking at our cube here, we're going to hit Control R and point at the edge that we want to split, and we're adding an edge loop right here on this edge, so it'll be splitting the cube vertically. Now I want it to be in the exact center, so if I move my mouse it's going to change that, so I don't want to do that. So if I hit right click right now, it pops back to the center. Then left click to set it. Okay, so now I've dissected this cube into half, so there's an edge loop right down the middle. Now we're going to take the whole thing, we're going to go back to object mode, so hit tab key to go back. And we're going to scale this vertically. So we hit S to scale, the Z for the Z axis, which is the vertical axis, and then just pull it in until you get pretty close together, something like that. And then what I would like to do is go back to edit mode. We're going to select this entire edge loop around the middle by holding down the Alt key and clicking on that edge while we're in edge selection mode. So this doesn't work if you're in face mode or vertex mode, only in edge mode. So we do Alt left click on this edge, and that's going to select the entire edge loop. Now we're going to scale that out and make it bigger. So just hit S and then pull, and we're going to pull that out. So it kind of gives us this kind of, it's like beveling the side a little bit. And there's other ways to do it. We could have done this with the bevel, but we've done it this way. And so now I want to, before I make my pillow, before I do anything else to this, we can do it. So in order to make this a pillow, we want it to look, kind of natural and lumpy and fluffy and curved. And there's not enough geometry on this to do that, because we're going to use the cloth. We're going to go into the cloth modifiers and the cloth mode to do some work on this. And so for that, you need a lot more geometry. And so we need to subdivide this down. And we could use the subdivision modifier. We could apply that on here. We could do it different ways, but I'm just going to add edge loops. So we're going to do Control R again. Oops, I don't know what I had done. So we're going to do Control R. We're going to point at this, and we're going to add, let's try, before I do that, sorry, just cancel that. We need to make this more of a rectangle, because right now it's square. It would be a square pillow, and who wants a square pillow? So we're going to go back to object mode by hitting tab. We're going to scale this on the y-axis. We're just going to pull that out so that it's like so. Okay, so now it's a rectangle. Maybe scale the X a little bit in. Okay, so now we have a rectangular pillow. And before we start breaking this down, I want to make sure that we apply our transforms. So hit Control A to apply the transforms, pick all transforms. And while you're at it, go ahead and set origin to geometry. All right, now we can click on it. We can go back into edit mode. And if I were to use the subdivision modifiers, they would work better now too. But we're going to go ahead and do edge loops. And what I like to do is divide this so that I have a seam in the center. And so I want it to be, these are two divisions here, right? So this is one edge loop, gives me two divisions. See, now I have two edge loops, it gives me three, right? But I don't have a line down the middle. So I want to make sure that I use an odd number of divisions. And so thinking of that, I want to have quite a few of these. So let's do something like 33. So just type 33 and you'll have the right number, and then left click twice or 3 times. And that subdivided it this way. Now we're going to I'm turning it so it's easier for you to see. And so we're going to break this down the other way. We're going to come in here and do Control R. We're going to apply our edge loops here. And again, I want an odd number. And so we did 33 this way. Let's try 23 this way. And you want them to be as square as you can try to get them. So if we look at that, it's not exactly square. It's a little longer this way than it is this way. So I probably should have done more than 23. So let's undo that. And we'll do it again, and I'll do like 27 or so. 27. Then look at it. Oops. Well, that's another way to do it. I didn't mean to be changing this. I meant to zoom in, but we'll cancel out that. So if you use scroll wheel here, it zooms your view in. But if you're in your edge loop, adding the edge loop and you scroll, it changes the number of edge loops. So let's go ahead and do that. Control R, and we'll use the scroll wheel, and we'll see when they get to be square. That looks pretty square, doesn't it? And one more. There we go. So I wanted to make sure, you can tell there's not a line in the origin, so there's not one in the middle. So now there is. Okay, so let's go with that. Those look pretty square. So I'm pretty content with that. One thing that actually makes it even better is if the distance on this edge loop is the same, so it's uniform. Otherwise it gets a little bit of deformation around the edges, but it's okay. All right, so now what I want to do is, what I would normally do is add a surface on the floor, or that represents like the bed or whatever you want, a hard surface for the pillow to rest on. That's going to give your pillow, because gravity will affect the pillow, so that's going to make it look flatter on the bottom and curved on the top, which is what you want. Unless you want like a free-floating pillow that's in the air, it'll be puffed out on both sides. We don't want that. We want it to have one side that's flat. So we need to add a flat surface on the ground. So while we are in object mode, we're going to make sure nothing is selected, and we are going to add a plane. So Shift A for add, mesh plane. There's our plane. We just want to make sure that it's bigger than the pillow. So scale it, and just scale it up like that. It doesn't really matter how big it is. We're not going to use it for anything else. And then just put it below with G, and then which is grab and move. And then we're going to use the Z axis to make sure that it's below the pillow, like down here somewhere. The pillow is going to swell up and expand, so you don't want it to go through the floor. So, oops, not G. So grab it and just lower it down a little more, like that. That's probably good. Okay, and then we have the two things we need. We have the pillow, which basically right now looks like a pillowcase. It doesn't actually look like a pillow. And we have the surface that it's going to lie on. And then we can start adding our parameters to this, the things that are going to make it work. And that's some physics parameters, which are under the physics tab. So let's go ahead and select our floor, and we'll go to the physics tab, and we'll say we want this to be a collision plane. So we're going to check collision. So that means other things will collide with this like it's physical. And then if you look down here at the very bottom under soft body and cloth, it has some parameters that get set by default. And like the thickness outer is set to 0.02. That's 0.02 meters by default, which basically what that means is when something like this pillow touches this surface, we're going to keep a gap. We're going to keep a gap between the two of them of about 0.02 meters. Well, that's pretty thick. And so when this happens, there's going to be a really discernible gap, and you don't want that. So I just bump this down to 0.02. You could go 0.01, but I leave a little bit of a gap, so 0.02. And I don't want my pillow to slide around on this surface, so I set the friction to be pretty high, and that just keeps the pillow. So what happens is the cloth of the pillow kind of hits the surface and grabs it and sticks to it. The higher the friction is, when the friction is low, it's going to slide across the surface. So you get different kinds of results with that. So I'm going to bump this up to somewhere up above 30 like that. It's fine. I'm not precise on this. I just need it to be pretty high. Okay, so that got me my surface that I'm going to set my pillow on. And then we have the pillow here. And now I want to set a cloth physics parameter on this guy. So we're going to come over here and say, aha, there's cloth. So go ahead and click cloth. And that tells Blender that this thing is made of cloth and it needs to behave like cloth. And then there are some presets for the kinds of cloth which set a bunch of these parameters a certain way. And if you hit this dot, dot, dot right here, you'll see there are cotton, denim, leather, rubber, and silk. And these are just presets. And you can create your own preset, but these are the ones out of the box. And so they're going to have it behave in different ways. So let's just pick silk for now and see what happens. So by setting it to silk, it sets these parameters a certain way. And that's kind of all there is to it at this point to get this to say, okay, it's cloth, but nothing happens because if to get the cloth simulation to work, you actually have to create an animation or at least run an animation. And so let's go ahead and go down to our animation timeline down here. And if I hit spacebar, it'll start playing and you'll see what happens. Or I could hit the play button here. And there, see, it fell. So gravity is working. And so the cloth fell. And now my cloth is laying on this surface. It's just laying there. Right? It doesn't look like a pillow. Like I said, it looks like a pillowcase, right? Well, in order to do that, you have to rewind. So you go back to the first frame. You need to add some more parameters to this. So one of the things that we're going to use, it's going to puff up the pillow, is what it's like putting air inside of it, or literally going to pump it up. It's something called pressure. And so if you look over here under your cloth settings and you scroll down, you'll come to a section called pressure. Right now, pressure is not turned on. So we're going to turn pressure on, and then we're going to apply some pressure. So right now, this is the amount of pressure that's being applied, which is nothing. And so that means nothing's going to happen. But let's bump that up to around 2 just to see what happens. And then let's go ahead and run our simulation by hitting the spacebar or hitting play on our animation timeline. And you'll see, poof, there it goes. Now we have a pillow. And I hit spacebar to stop it too, but you can let it run if you want. It just kind of resolves itself as it does this. It bounces up and down as gravity has its way. And it gets to the end and starts over again. And so we're just going to hit pause to stop that. And you can actually scrub this and go through the timeline. And then basically what you're going to do is you're going to find a frame that you really like. But let's just stop it right here, and then we'll look at this and see. So that's what our pillow looks like from the side. It's got a nice dome to the top. It's got a flat bottom, and it's got some creases in it that looks pretty good. Now, it's really blocky right now. And so we can solve that blockiness by clicking on this and doing shade smooth. And that smooths out the pillow. And so now it looks like a pillow. And if you want it to have more detail, you can actually come over here to your modifiers, and we can add a subsurface modifier. And it depends on what you want. You can put it before the cloth, or you can put it after the cloth. So let's go ahead and just add this. We're going to do add, generate, subdivision surface, and that's what it looks like now. And this is after cloth. If you pull this up and drop it here, it'll happen before it does the cloth. And see, it doesn't work. So you want to make sure this is after the cloth modifier is done. And so this is what it looks like with the Cat-Moulay-Clark method, and this is what it looks like with the simple method. This is a little smoother looking, and this is, you know, a little more blocky. And this is what it looks like without it. I actually think it looks pretty fine, especially we try to do low poly stuff in for Second Life, and you want to lower your LI. And so for me, I think this looks actually pretty good. Now, this is what we call non-destructive changes that we've made with these modifiers over here, and they stack, and so it does the first one at the top of the stack, and then it does them down. Like, so if I put in that subdivision modifier down here, it was below it, so it would happen after it. But like I said, we don't even need it. I don't think. But our geometry, if you actually look at our geometry, it hasn't changed because we have not applied this modifier. Once we apply this modifier, it's going to freeze the model at the frame that we have selected and generate the geometry for the cloth that's all puffed up and looks like a pillow. And so right now it doesn't look like a pillow. If I were to export this, it would not export correctly. So I need to apply this cloth change. Now, the problem is, once I apply this cloth, and I'll show you, we'll do it right now. So I'll go ahead and apply this, and you'll watch the geometry change. I got to be in object mode. Ah! See, it's not happy. So, yeah. So, there, yeah, you have to be really careful with the order of how you do things. So I don't want this. I want to get rid of this cloth modifier real quick. So we'll go out here and turn this back off, and then go back to the first frame, and we will go back out to object mode. So now there's our pillowcase. So we know what to do. I just did that as a few steps so you could see what to do to create the pillow. But before we actually go do that, I want to UV map this, because if you don't, and I'll show you what. Let's do this. This is a good idea to always do. I like to save a copy of my pillow. So I have everything set up and it's ready to go to become cloth. But before I do that, let's make a copy of it by going Shift D. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself, but let's go ahead and do that. Shift D, and then on the Y axis, and then I'll show you the difference. So this is my geometry before it becomes a pillow. And what I want to do is I want to UV map this, and I want to take all the surfaces on one side, and the other side we're going to split them. And so the best way to do that is we're going to mark some seams for where we want this to be cut. And so I have this edge loop that goes around the outside of the pillow. We're going to grab that one. Again, that's with Alt. And then we're going to click on this edge loop. So we've selected that whole edge loop, and we're going to go ahead and say edge, mark seam. So now we have a seam there. And just to prevent some distortion, it's good to take the ones at the very corner all the way around this guy, these two here, and we're going to mark those as well. So it basically uses a razor blade and cuts those, and that allows the rest of them to kind of lay flat like that. Edge, mark seam. Okay. And now if we go to UV mapping, which is up here, UV editing, and we select that with X-ray turned on, which I'm not getting because there it is. My screen was too small. I couldn't see it, so I had to open this up a little bit so I could see the X-ray button. Because you want to make sure you get all the faces. You don't want just, if you don't have X-ray turned on, it's only going to select the faces that you're looking at. The ones that are behind the object won't get selected. So you have to turn X-ray on so you can see through it and select everything. Or you could just hit A for all. But I use the marquee tool to select everything. So we have everything selected. And then we're just going to go up to our UV map and do unwrap. And there we go. We have our UV. But you notice that it's not proportionally correct. It's still a box. Now, oftentimes that is because I haven't applied my transformations, but I'm pretty sure we did apply our transformations, but let's try it again just to make sure. So we're going to do Control A, all transforms, and then we'll select it again, and we'll unwrap everything. And aha, so see the difference? So I must have done some stuff to the geometry, and I had not applied my transforms. And so when I did the unwrap, it still unwrapped it as a square because it remembered it was a square. So by applying my transforms and then unwrapping, it knows it's a rectangle and it sets it proportionately. Now, one thing I don't like about this, and I don't know if anybody knows how to fix this, please let me know. I don't like that Blender by default, when you unwrap something, it unwraps it vertically, because most of the textures that I use for Second Life have the pattern and everything that I use is horizontal. And so to get my patterns to fit best, I always try to rotate this. And I think I found that you have to rotate it this way. So I'm holding, I hit R for rotate, and then I'm holding the Control key down to make it do it on 5-degree increments. And then you just rotate it up until you're at minus 90 degrees. And then you use G to move everything, and then you just place it back inside this box, the bounding box, so that it fits like that. And I have snap turned on, so it makes sure it's snapped to the bounding box. Now I have this, and if I did it right, then this is the top of the pillow, this is the bottom of the pillow, or vice versa. But if you put text on it, where you have writing or something, it's legible for the top of the pillow, I think. I don't know for sure. You have to check it out. You have to try it and see. But at least it's going horizontally as opposed to vertically, which is the way I want it to be. So I have my UV map done. Okay. Now, if we go back to layout mode, and now we can go apply our cloth parameter to this. And again, the same thing, just tell it that it's cloth. We're going to set it to silk. We're going to go down and we're going to set the pressure to, I think it was like 2, right, 2.2. Oh, there's one other thing too. There's remember how we did on the collision surface, there was a parameter that said how far away to have it be when it collides. Yeah, it was 0.02. It was 0.2 and we set it to 0.02 or something like that. There's another one of those here as well. But it's not on, it's on collisions. So we turn pressure on. We also should turn on collisions. Where's that at? Right here, collisions. So if we go down to collisions, see it's 0.15, and that's too far. So let's just drop that down to 0.02. 0.002. So it's the same, which I had forgot to tell you to do that earlier. There's a couple of other parameters here that we could adjust if things don't look well. One of them is the quality. That's the quality of the collisions. And then the other one is the quality steps that are used when you actually do the cloth simulation. And so it's set to 5 right now, and it looked pretty good with 5. But if you want it to look better, you can adjust these. But let's see how it did. So, okay, we've got our cloth parameters set, we've got our pressure set, and we've got the collision set. So let's go ahead and run this simulation. And there we go. There we have a pillow. I'm going to hit pause. I think that looks, anywhere in here is fine, right? So you can notice if you go back further, it's still moving around. And let's look at it from the side so you can see what it's actually doing. So, and if you go here, you start slow, it just starts inflating. Boom, 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 there it goes inflating. And then see, it's actually poked through the bottom of the floor. And then it sorts itself out and comes back up and then lays on it. And then it, as the air inside, the air pressure bounces around the pillow, eventually comes to rest. And around here, it's already done. So there's anywhere in there should be fine. So let's just set it right here at 110. Look around, say, okay, I like that. And now we're going to do apply on our cloth. And it's going to it's no longer going to animate. So the simulation will stop, and it's going to generate the geometry as it looks right now. And so we'll go ahead and do that. Boom. I have it, and it's done. Okay, so I have my pillow. Now, I want to do the other pillow differently. So this pillow we did with the UV map before I created the pillow. And we're going to call this pillow 1. I can't see what I'm typing. Pillow 1, there it is. This one over here we're going to call pillow 2. Okay. So pillow 1, we're going to move it out of the way. Just move it over like so. And now we're going to bring this one back and set it up here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do the transforms on it because I realized that I had to do that earlier. Okay, but I'm not going to UV map it now. I'm going to wait until we're done, and then I'll UV map it. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the cloth parameter to it. We're going to set it up exactly the same. We're going to pick silk. We'll go down to pressure. We'll set that up at, I think it was 2.2 is where I did it. We will go to collisions, set the collisions to 0.02, 002. And I think that was it, wasn't it? Yep. Okay, let's rewind. If you were wondering, where did it go? It fell through while I was doing that. So just rewind the animation and start the animation. Boom, there it goes. Everything looks the same as it did before. So far, it's no different. All right, so we'll stop it there. We'll go back to 110 just to make sure we do it exactly the same. And I'm going to go ahead and apply my cloth modifier. Okay, so now I have 2 pillows. And let's go look at this and see if we can UV map it now. Let's go ahead and look at the geometry. Yeah, look at that geometry. It's more complicated, and it's got all these bends in here. So we can try to do the same thing. So we'll mark that seam all the way around. We will hold shift down and mark these. Hold shift down and mark these. Shift down and mark those. Shift down and mark those. And then we will go to UV editing, select everything, and pick unwrap. And it's not right, but so let's go ahead and go back to object mode. Let's do transforms. We'll go back to edit mode, and we will unwrap it again. It didn't really change anything. So this UV map is wrong. Notice that this is probably the top and the bottom of the pillow. These are little tiny, it's one big square with a bunch of rectangles in there. And then this is the seam around the side, and this is, the ends are all deformed. So if I use this UV map, it's going to be deformed. Okay? But it gets even worse. Let's say I wanted to add some subsurface modifiers to this, and I want to do that. So, because I thought, man, that's not detailed enough. I want to make this even more detailed. So let's go stick a subdivision modifier on there. Let's go ahead and apply that. And now let's look at our geometry. And it's even more so. And if I were to go UV map that, our UV is going to be even more complicated and off than it was for this. So that's why I think it's so much easier to create that UV map before you generate the cloth than it is after you do it. It's for pillows, it's not, and these are simple pillows. They're not doing anything weird. They're not, if I had these pillows lying on top of another pillow, so they actually bent, or had, a stack of pillows where some of the pillows were in kind of weird shapes, then this would be really, really difficult to create those UV maps if I waited until the very end to do it, instead of doing it before I actually turn on the cloth modifier. So that's my recommendation, is to do it the way I did it and not use this one. So we have this. We're going to put it back in the middle here. We don't need the floor anymore because it's done. But let's look at our geometry on that. Our geometry is pretty simple. And we have our UV map, and our UV map is very simple as well. Now, what would happen to this UV map if I did go back and say, okay, maybe I do want some more detail. So let's go ahead and add that subdivision surface modifier on here and apply it. So now our geometry changed, and let's go look at our UV. Select everything, and it hasn't changed. It just got more detail. It didn't change. So don't you see how much of an advantage that is? This is a very easy texture to be able to use in Second Life. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. We're going to pop this guy. We're going to export. We're going to get rid of the floor. I don't need that. So we have our pillow. Let's go ahead and export this. Let's put a material on it first. So we're going to stick a simple material called material on there. We'll just call that pillow. Okay, so now that we actually have a named material on it. That's important when you go to Substance Painter, if you use Substance Painter. All right, and we'll just export this as Collada. Make sure we do selection only, just in case I do have more things in my model that I don't want to deal with. You can do this. It doesn't seem to really matter. It's the operator preset. That's Second Life plus OpenSim static. And then name it as test pillow. And I'm putting it in my C documents folder. So that's where it's going to be. All right. Now we're going to pop over to Second Life. Okay, so just before I jump over to Second Life, I wanted to do one other thing. And I just did it without you watching. So I went back and remember I had just saved this pillow and I exported it as a DAE file, Collada file called test pillow. And I set the pillow texture to be pillow, called pillow. So I undid all that, and I undid adding the subdivision surface modifier to increase the geometry to have the way it was originally when we first did the cloth settings before I added the subsurface subdivision modifier to make it more detailed, because I wanted to compare the two in Second Life so you could see the difference in LI between the pillow, between the version of the pillow that I didn't have more detailed geometry, this one, and the version that I did. We'll see if they look any different. I just wanted to do that as a comparison. So see if they look different and see if they have different LI. And so we'll import both of them. So let's go ahead and jump into Second Life. If I can get my mouse to cooperate. All right, here we are. And I will go ahead and upload both of those. So the first one's called, it's in documents, it's called test pillow. That's the more detailed one. And I'm going to try to see how big it would be if I uploaded it just as it is. So let's look at the size of this under upload options. It's currently 1.8 meters by 2.3 meters, which is pretty big. So let's go ahead and cut that by 50%. So we'll do 0.5. So it's still almost a meter long by 1.5 meters. That's probably still too much. So let's try 0.25. We can always change this later. So that's a 0.5 meter, but yeah, that's better. That's a 0.5 meter by 0.7 meters. Let's see how that looks. We'll do the same thing when we import the other one. So let's do ahead and calculate weight and fee. So this pillow, as it is, without reducing anything, would be 19 Li. No. 64 Li. So if I were to import that pillow just like this with the default settings, it's going to be 64 Li pillow. And that's nuts. So what I normally do is drop the bottom, the lowest value here in my triangle limit to 0. And I'll take this one to 500. And I play with these. I use different numbers all the time. Sometimes I'll use 50 and 10. It depends on how much it changes. So let's try that and we'll recalculate it. Okay, so that got it down to 5. So that's okay. So let's go ahead and upload this as a 5 Li pillow. And remember, this is the one with the high geometry. Okay, and it's now in here. There it is. We will res that. and we'll take a look at it. There's our pillow. See, it's got this nice little line around it where the seam was, which kind of looks cool. So that's a nice looking pillow. That's the higher LI one. And now watch what happens as I move my camera away. So you can see the whole thing here now. But as I pull my camera away, it's going to break down into the different levels of detail. And so let's see where it breaks. That's pretty good. That means the camera can be this far and it hasn't made any changes yet. I just saw it do something, but it's not breaking down in a very harmful way. So that actually looks pretty good. That's 5 Li for a fairly detailed pillow. Now let's go ahead and upload the other one, which is the lower poly one, which I did not do the subdivision surface modifier on. And it's called low poly. And it doesn't like it. So there was something about the way I exported that from Blender it didn't like. So I probably screwed something up when I undid things. I'll go back and try to export it again. So okay, this is the low poly one. Yep. So maybe I'll need to do that. Control A, transform, and then we'll export it as the low poly. Yep. Export. And then we'll try it, upload it again, see if it works this time. Upload, mesh model, low poly. Yep, that fixed it. So that's what was wrong. I needed to do my apply transformations. Okay, so notice that the poly count is way lower. This was 4,600, I think is what it said, 4,600. Now it's 1,050. The size should be the same. Yep, so if I do 0.25 on this, yep, that gets it to the same size, which that makes sense. And then if I go back over here, let's try and calculate and see what it would be just by default. So this is already 14. So that one was 64 Li with doing nothing. This is 14.6. But if I drop this down to 500, just like I did the other one, this is 100 and this to 0. Let's calculate it and see how big that is. It's 5 Li. So what that says is by having it to be higher poly with a better looking geometry, it didn't really make any difference in the Li. So we're going to upload that, and we will put that pillow right next to this one. Now, do you see a difference? I can see a difference. Those are less defined than these are. This is smoother. Right? A little more blocky looking. Okay, and so this one came out to 5 Li, and this one's 5 Li. So I would get rid of this one, and we don't need it. And we're going to keep this one. Okay, so now we have our pillow, but we don't have an AO for it. We don't have an ambient occlusion map for it. We don't have textures for it. So I need to get those. So for me, the way I do that is with Substance Painter. So let's go ahead and pull that up. And it's opening, but it's opening on the wrong screen. So as soon as it gets open, I'll move it and we'll play with it. Okay. Well, this is Substance Painter from Adobe. Oops. And we're going to do new. We use the PBR Metallic Roughness Alpha Blend Starter Assets template. We're going to go to C Documents, and we're doing the high poly one. We're going to set this to 2048 because now SL does 2048 by 2048 images, which I love. And this has to be OpenGL because Second Life uses OpenGL, not DirectX, for its normal maps. Otherwise, the normals get inverted. There it is. I'm going to rotate our view. Move it over here. Then first thing we want to do is we want to go to our display settings and we want to pick the environment map, and we need to use a two-sided environment map. So I have panorama two-sided, and I have videos on how to do that. And then we're going to go to mode. We're going to go bake mesh maps. First thing we do is set the high poly parameters. We set this checkbox that says use your low poly mesh as your high poly mesh. Then go to ambient occlusion, set it to 256 on secondary rays. Go to curvature, set secondary rays to 256. And on thickness, do the same thing, secondary rays to 256. And then click bake selected textures. And it's actually going through and generating all of the different maps, texture maps that it needs to be able to texture this thing, including the ambient occlusion. And if you want to look at them, you can see these are the maps that it created in here. And I'm in the 3D view, but you can actually be in a 2D view or both a 2D and a 3D view. But I just like working in the 3D view. So we're going to export this for the old Blinn-Phong way first. So let's just find some kind of cloth texture. Let's go fabric. These are a bunch of the materials that I have in here. And let's just pick something like cotton, whatever this is, cotton tricotine weave novelty yarn front side. And just drag that on. Now the grain of this is way too big. We want it to be much, much tighter. So we're going to go in here and we are going to tile this and get it down to where we want it. So that looks pretty decent. So I think that's pretty good. That's about a 6. I don't like 5.97, so let's change it to 6. All right, so 6, that got me to that. I think that looks pretty decent. And this is just white, so if I wanted to apply a color, I could apply a color in here. This particular material allows you to change the colors of the warp and the weft. And if you know anything about cloth, warp and weft are the way the strings in the threads in the weave go. Warp goes one way, weft goes the other way. And so you could change the colors of those if you want to. But I'm just going to go with this white. And then we're going to do export, which is export textures. I have it hotkeyed to F3. And then you need to choose your output template. And so we're going to choose a pre-made one that it doesn't come with the tool. You have to create one. And I created one for Second Life. And it's going to generate a diffuse texture, a normal texture, a specular texture, and there is my AO. And so we're going to export that. And it's go back to Second Life. And we will now upload that with build upload bulk. It goes to my export folder, which is here. And it should be, oh, I actually called it pillow. So there's the AO, the diffuse, the normal, and the spec. So we will take all 4 of those and we will import them. Now, if I just want to have the AO and then I want to use Photoshop or Gimp or something like that to do a multiply blend to combine a 2D seamless texture with the AO to create my own set of textures, then I would only need to upload the AO. And then once they're uploaded, you can just drag them on to apply them. So there it is with the AO. And now you'll notice that this is a little dark. It's because it sets it to gray. So go to Blinn-Phong, go to tint, and set that to white. And now you have it. This is what it looks like with the AO applied. Notice you have the nice little shadows in the creases, and the bottom is darker. And it's a nice gradient look all the way around it. It's a high quality AO. Now, if I want to go ahead and apply the textures that it created, I'll do that too, and go into my texture panel. Make sure Blinn-Phong is selected. There's your diffuse, there's your normal, and there's your specular, and you just drag them on. And now I have my pillow textured in Blinn-Phong materials with all 3 materials applied. And now if I want to do PBR, then I'm just going to go back to Substance Painter. And now I'm going to export it again. And this time, instead of Second Life, I'm going to pick GLTF PBR Metal Roughness and hit export. We'll go back to Second Life and we will import that build, upload, material. This time, instead of uploading the individual files, we're just going to upload a material. And it's this one here that I want. It's the GLB file. And when you tell it you want to upload a material, it pops up in this material editor, and alpha mode is set to blend. You need to set it to opaque and then hit save. And it's going to save it as this name. I don't like that name, so let's do save as, and we're going to call this test pillow white cotton. Now it's going to upload the individual texture maps, which are the base color map, the metallic roughness map, or the ORM, because O is occlusion, and your AO is actually embedded in there, as is your metallic texture map and your roughness texture map. Then this is the emissive. It's not using an emissive, so it's just black. And then this is the normal, which shows the bumpiness of the surface. And so those four maps get uploaded one by one, and then it creates the actual material object. And we go to our materials folder, and there is test pillow white cotton, and we just drag it on. And now this is the pillow textured in PBR. So I don't see the Blinn-Phong anymore. I only see the PBR because I'm in a PBR capable viewer. And if I edit it and I pick Blinn-Phong here, you actually see the Blinn-Phong. But if I pick PBR, now I actually see the PBR. And if I exit that and edit, it stays in the PBR. So this is a little weird thing. So when you edit this, like I'm editing it here, you see the textures applied as this is set on these tabs. So this is the PBR, this is Blinn-Phong, PBR, Blinn-Phong, PBR, Blinn-Phong. You notice the shadows are a little more pronounced on the Blinn-Phong because the AO was baked into the diffuse. Whereas in this, it's using a more natural AO that's part of the ORM. And it's using Second Life's lighting to actually create that. Anyway, this is my pillow with PBR and Blinn-Phong applied to it. My UV map was super simple, and that's why my texture looks so good. There's no deformities, there's no weirdness, there's no missing pieces, there's no inverted normals, there's none of that. It's perfect. And you will notice a little bit of deformation right at the seam, right along there. And that's because what I was telling you about the size of those squares on the part that stuck out was a little bit different than it was everywhere else. So that's why you get a little bit of deformation. If I had made that a little more carefully, see it right there, you can see it right there. It's like a little seam. If I had been a little more careful, then that would line up even more perfectly. But as it is, it's pretty darn good. So again, to reiterate, that was how to make a pillow from a cube, how to add details to it, how to use the cloth simulator to create your pillow using pressure and collisions with a collision plane, how to create the UV maps of that. You do it before you do your simulation, your cloth simulation, do your UV map first. And then just export everything. And if you're using something like Substance Painter to generate the textures, it's super, super simple. That's why it costs a fair amount of money. But there's other ways to do it too. And I have other videos that talk about some of those other ways, but this is just basically how to do it. So that's the whole kit and caboodle, start to end of making a pillow. Now, if you want to do a different texture, let's put something on it that's a little more exciting than this. There's some ways we can do that too. So let's just experiment with that a bit. We'll go back over here to Substance Painter, and let's pick a little more exciting kind of texture, like this one here. That's kind of cool, right? Let's drag that on. And then I'm going to turn off the cotton one because I don't want that, because sometimes these they stack, and so they can bleed through. And see, it went away. See, with it on, you get the grain of the cotton. I don't want that. So I have this now. To me, that's oriented 180 degrees off of what I was expecting it to be. It doesn't really matter because it's a pillow, right? And it just depends on how you rotate your pillow. but I can come in here if I want to, and I can rotate this 180 degrees just by doing a rotation in here. So if I go to that and do 180, then it flips it. See? And if that's too big of a pattern, I want to make this, see, it is kind of, see all the individual strings and stuff? I want that to be smaller so I can adjust the tiling on this. And let's do a factor of 2. We did 6 on the cotton one, but let's see what happens if I do 6. It gets like that. And I don't want it like that. I want it to be bigger. So let's go back up to, say, 4. And that's not terrible, is it? Let's do 3. Okay, there's 3. I'll live with that. And then, again, all you have to do is you do export. And since I already have the GLTF selected, we'll just go with that first. Boom, there it is. And then we will export it again. This time we'll go to Second Life. And since I already did the AO, I don't need the AO anymore. I can just turn that off. Okay. And let's go back to Second Life. We will do build, upload, bulk. We will get the pillow, diffuse, normal, specular. Upload them. I'm going to edit this and turn off the PBR just by clicking that and hitting none. So now there's no PBR assigned to it. And this is the Blinn-Phong that was on there. And okay, let's put these on and see how it looks. Why does it say multiple? Oh, God, what did I change? I changed the ground. Can I undo that? Nope. Oy vey. Okay, well, I didn't mean to do that. Well, be careful where you drop stuff. There it is. And then we will put the, see, you can still see the cotton lines because the normal hasn't been changed yet. This normal has those lines in it. So now when I put the new normal on, it'll go away. And ta-da, now it's got the normal for this pattern. And then we'll put the spec on here as well. Okay, and there it is. I probably didn't need to do the 180 after all, but anyway, there it is. There's my pillow with that on in Blinn-Phong, and I'm gonna go ahead and fix my floor to have the right texture. Select face. Okay, I fixed that. That was not the smartest thing I ever did. All right, now let's go ahead and upload the PBR material for this. So we'll go upload material, pick that one, change it to opaque, and then we will save as and call it test. I don't know, what is that? Weird fans? What are those things? I don't know what they are. And then it uploads all 4 of those different texture maps. And as soon as it's done, it creates the material in the materials folder. Sometimes it feels like all I do all day long is upload things. And it's pretty slow. Again, these are 2048 by 2048 textures, so pretty big. Okay, there it is. Text pillar, and this is the Blinn-Phong, not the Blinn-Phong, the PBR. Ooh, that looks good. There it is in PBR. Super cool, super realistic. All right, so that's the, again, so we did a couple different textures on there. We created an AO, we created different textures. Do you want to see how to create a PBR AO from the AO? I can show you how to do that really quickly too. So a PBR AO allows me to do something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and take off all the textures on this. We'll just go to Blinn-Phong, hit that, and say blank. Okay. None. Okay. None. Okay, that got rid of all the Blinn-Phong. Now let's go ahead and get rid of the PBR. Do that none. Okay, so now there's no texture on this whatsoever, right? But I want to use the AO in PBR so that I can texture this in Second Life without having to use another tool to create all the different textures. So like I don't have Substance Painter, or I don't have a way of doing that, and I buy a bunch of textures on Marketplace. I have them in my inventory. I just want to drag them on and apply them. Well, I can do that. So, in fact, let's see. I have. Hang on a second. Let me find a good texture. Okay, I found some. These are simple textures. This one's called Shades of Gray Cotton, and this is a fairly light gray pattern. I want to put this on the pillow. There's no AO. It's just using SL lighting at this point. There's no SO. There's no AO. It's not baked in. So when I put this on here, it's going to look okay, but it's going to be a little flat. If I do a different one, like two's much darker, I think. Yeah, it's really dark. I don't like that. So let's go with let's go with 5. All right, there it is. So I have this gray texture on there. It looks okay, but with an AO, it's going to look even better. And so normally what you would do is to create the one for Blinn-Phong is you would take this 2D seamless texture into Photoshop, and I can do that. So let me do that. I'm going to, hold on a second. I'm going to open that up in Photoshop. Okay. So the way you would do that in Photoshop, if you want to create the Blinn-Phong AO with the texture applied, it's a complicated little process. So you have to go to Photoshop, bring Photoshop over here so you can see it. No, bring it over here. All right, there's Photoshop. So I'm going to do File, Open. I'm going to go to Export, and we'll go to Pillow AO. There's my pillow. There's my AO. Now, I'm going to duplicate this because I'm going to do it 2 different ways. All right, so close this one, hide this one. We'll play with that one later. So we have this one. What we're going to do is we're going to add 3 layers, and then we're going to put this on top. Bottom layer is transparent. The next 2 layers we're going to do fill with white. White. This one we're going to do fill with black. And then this one we're going to leave transparent. Then we're going to go back to our original. We're going to take our little magic wand tool, and we're going to get rid of this black area over here. Oops, got to rasterize it first. Where's rasterize? So just take those big black areas and we're going to get rid of them. And then I want to use the marquee tool. I'm going to cut a little bit there. Oh no, sorry. I'm doing the completely wrong thing. So this brain fart. Yeah, we don't need this. This is how you create a floor shadow. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, that's stupid. I don't know. Sometimes I do that. Okay. Forget all that. Okay, so here's our AO. This is our AO. And what you do is you're going to put another layer on top of this with that texture that we want. And so do that, and I want to apply something. So hang on, let me grab it. All right, so this is, I have to go find that same texture. Okay, it's in here. It's called Shades of gray. Shades of gray. Begins with an S. Shades of gray. Cotton 5 is what it was. So that's this one. Probably should have done that. It's much more interesting, right? So there it is. And just stretch it out to fit. Okay. So there's the 2D texture. This is my AO underneath it. All I do is put multiply on here. Now I have the 2D texture and the AO combined. And we're going to export that. So we're going to export this. We just hit, I have it keyed to, my key's tied to F3. So there it is. I'm going to go to my, no, I'm doing place embedded. That's F1, F3. We're going to go to the export folder and we're going to call it pillow 1 gray pillow 1. That's what I called it. I'd already done it just to be safe. Okay, so now I have this texture. Let's go back over here to Second Life. Upload that. This is a Blinn-Phong. Nope, not material. Sorry. Build, upload, image, and it's called Gray Pillow 1. There it is, and now we stick that on there. So this is what it looks like with no AO. This is what it looks like with the AO. So I don't know if you can see a difference. I can. It's just a subtle difference on the shading, and the bottom of the pillow is darker than the top. So it looks more realistic, looks more natural. Okay, it's hard to tell with this thing and with the white background like this, but okay, that's a Blinn-Phong 2D seamless texture applied with the AO, and I had to go into Photoshop to do that. You can do it in Gimp too, but I have to use that external tool to do all that. And each texture that I would create, I would have to do the same thing. I would go back to Photoshop. I would put another texture in, set it to multiply, export. Get another texture, drag it in, set it to multiply, export. And if I want the grain of the texture to change, I have to do it here. I have to change the scale of this image. So if I wanted it to be tighter, I have to shrink it down. If I needed to make it bigger, I have to stretch it. Do all that in here and then export it. And if you have to do that through trial and error, you have to do it like 5 or 6 times before you get it to be the way you want it to look. So it's a lot of work in Photoshop, a lot of back and forth between Photoshop and Second Life to do that. But it's not hard to do. It's just time consuming, right? But with PBR, it's way easier. You only have to create one image. And so I'll show you how to do that. So basically you start with the AO image, like this image. And then all you have to do is very simple. You just go to this channels tab right here. And we're going to open it. But see, we're not in a color image. So I have to go up to image and mode and set it to RGB color. And all right, so now I can go to channels, and then I have one channel for each of the colors, red, green, and blue. And there's a grayscale image in each one, which is this AO image. And so with PBR, this is not red, this is not green, this is not blue for this ORM image. This is actually going to be your ambient occlusion, your AO. This is going to be your roughness, and this is going to be your metallic. So you just go to for this pillow, I don't want it to be shiny at all. And so since I don't want it to be shiny, I'm going to set this, the green, which is roughness, and I'm going to fill that with white. White means no shininess. So fill the whole thing with white. And then the blue is the metallic, and I don't want it to be metallic, so I'm going to fill that with black. So just fill that with black. And then make sure they're all 3 turned on. And then this is the resulting image, is this. So go back to your layers, and now you have this kind of yellow and green looking image. Instead of the black and white grayscale, you have this yellow and green thing. That's what you need for your metallic roughness. And so we're just going to export that. Export it here, and we're going to call it pillow ORM, which stands for occlusion roughness metallic. Okay, and then go back to Second Life, and now we're going to create a new material. Right here, we're going to call it new material, and we'll call it test pillow AO. Then we'll double click it to open it. We're going to find a white image. So I happen to have a white image that's 2048 by 2048. Stick that in the base color. You can use any white. You don't even have to have a base color there. You can just set this to do it, and it should work, but I like to put a color there. All right. Then we're going to do build, upload, image. That's the pillow, which I didn't spell correctly, ORM image. We're going to upload that. And you drag that into the metallic roughness. You leave these two alone, and you hit save. Okay, now it's created a material right here. I just drag that material on. I can close it. So there I have a PBR version of an AO applied to my material, my pillow. It's a PBR version of an AO applied to my pillow. Now, what did that do for us? Where's my gray cotton texture that's what I want. I don't want this to be white. I want it to be a gray cotton. Well, now I no longer need Photoshop. I don't have to go back to Photoshop and take that texture and combine it with the AO and do trial and error. I just come in here and say, okay, I have this applied. Now I go find that cotton. What was it called? Shades of gray cotton. Right? And we used number 5. So just take this, edit it, click on this to edit the material. No, sorry, that's not it. Oh yeah, it is right here. So sorry, edit the object and go to texture PBR, and you have all the things you need are right here. So this base color has the white image in there. Remember, I put the white image in there when I created the material. All I'm going to do is drag this cotton image that I want on the base color right there. Boom. And there it is. Okay. Now I had to do that with Blinn-Phong. I had to do that in Photoshop and merge that with the AO and export it and then upload it. But for this, all I had to do was edit it and drag it on there. Well, if I want a different one, I just drag it on here. There it is. And then if I want the number 6 on here, I can do that. What if I want a completely different one? Well, there was something else I saw. It was shades of gray, something else, right? Linen. Let's take some of this. Let's put that in there instead, see what it looks like. Well, look at that. It's completely different. It's a completely different texture, and the AO is preserved. The shadowing is all in there, and I don't have to go use Photoshop for any of this. I want to put a different one on here. Let's go to the shade of gray flowers. Let's put that in here. And there it is. I have a new texture with the shading applied. If I want to do a different one, I can take this number 6, drag it in there. And there you go. Now I have a completely different. It's all PBR. It's preserving the AO because the AO is baked into the ORM texture map, which is included in all of these. And all I have to do is drag my 2D seamless texture that I want into the base color. And there you go. Isn't that amazing? I can sit here and do this all day long. Just edit it, drag in a different texture into the base color, and there you go. And this one says winter fabric, so winter fabric. Looks like that. Okay, now here's a good example of this. So that texture is gigantic, right? That doesn't look right at all. Now, if I wanted to do this with Photoshop, I would have done this in Photoshop. It would have looked like that. I would have to then shrink this down in that one layer, export it again, upload it to Second Life, try it and go, yep, still not right. Do it again, make another image, upload it to Second Life, keep doing that until I get it right. Well, with Blinn-Phong, all I have to do is drag that into the base color, and then I can come down here to base color and I can adjust the scale. So let's say I want to do 2. It's going to be twice as, and then I have to do it on both the U and the V. And now it looks better, but it's still kind of big, so let's go to 4. And you notice it's not losing any quality in the image either. It's not getting blurry. It still looks really good. And that's still kind of big, so let's try 6. And there you go. All without having to use Photoshop for any of that. Just dragging it on. And see, I still have my shading. The bottom is still darker than the top. And you know how I can tell the bottom is darker than the top? Watch this. When I flip it over, you can see the bottom is darker than the top because the AO's on there. And then, what if I don't want it to go this way? What if I want this pattern to go the other way? Well, just go down to base color and go to rotate and change it 90 degrees. If I wanted to do that the traditional way, I'd have to go back to Photoshop, take that layer, rotate that layer, export it again, import it into Second Life and do it. But I'm doing all of this right here within Second Life. Okay, so that was a much more comprehensive video than I had anticipated making in the first place. So we learned how to make a pillow, how to do the UV mapping on the pillow, how to export it, how to bring it into Second Life, how to compare different ways of doing it, how to check and make sure you have it so that you have enough geometry so that it looks good, how to smooth it and make it look really nice, how to then take that and create your AO, create a PBR AO, create textures, upload those textures, both Blinn-Phong and PBR, and how to do all of that. So I hope that was very helpful. You guys let me know in the comments what you thought of that. If you did, please like this video. That really helps get it out to other people, and subscribe to my channel for more content, and hit the notification bell if you want to know when I post another video, because I don't post them that often. So if you don't pay attention, you might miss out on them. So we will talk to you guys next time, and see me in Second Life if you have any questions. I have the PBR Materials channel where we talk about PBR and how to do things, and I have my store, and I have a bunch of other stuff, so you can reach out to me there. It's Bandor Tyrell in Second Life. We'll talk to you guys there. See ya.